What is going on, guys? This is Talking Tide. This is your game breakdown for Vanderbilt versus Alabama. If you would have told somebody 3 years ago that this game was going to be on game day, they would have called you crazy. This is the first time this matchup has been ranked since November 25th of 1937. So it's been a long time since this game has meant a lot. Everybody knows last year that Vanderbilt rather beat Alabama in Nashville. So the real question is, how do they do it again? And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the show. We're going to talk about how Alabama can try and prevent that upset from happening once again. First things first, I would like to say, please please subscribe, hit the little notification bell so you know when we go live. We'll do a couple of live shows every year. So please do all that. Really trying to get this YouTube channel up and running. I've been posting a ton of shorts. So if you guys found this channel from those, welcome in. Please, again, feel welcome. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and we will get our show underway. Now, most people in the entire world, I would assume, watched the Vanderbilt versus Alabama game last season. If you didn't watch it live, you went back and you watched it on a replay because you thought it was funny to see Vanderbilt beat Alabama. And here's the thing. If I wasn't a Bama fan, I'd probably thought it was funny too. I think that UCLA being 0-4 right now is funny. So there are teams that people like to laugh at and players that people like to laugh at. So Bama's done a lot of a lot of damage to a lot of people's teams. So they wanted to get their own back, and Vanderbilt was their way to do it. Here's the thing. Vanderbilt last season and this season both are good football teams. It was a big surprise to what happened last season because Bama just came off a win against Georgia at home. Kalen DeBoer's first win against Georgia, and we're coming off of it again. Went to Athens, got a win against Georgia, a big hyped up matchup, went on and broke Georgia's home game win streak. So Vanderbilt, once again, going to try and bring the Tide back down to earth. The question is, how can they do it again? And I want to go back to a couple of stats from last season, breaking down as to how they actually beat the Tide last year. First things first, is going to be third down percentage. They went 12 of 18 on third down. That is a ton of third down conversions. We talked about Bama last week against Georgia going 12 for 19. They went 12 for 18 against us. Vanderbilt went 12 for 18 against an Alabama defense. Cannot have that happen this time if you're Bama and you want to try and get the win. They won the turnover battle. They got one interception. They got one fumble recovery. The interception was unlucky, and the fumble recovery, it happens. So they won the turnover battle. They put up 252 passing yards and 418 total yards. And probably the most condemning stat of all, time of possession. Vanderbilt had 42 minutes of possession compared to Alabama's 17. 42 minutes out of a 60-minute game, that Vanderbilt offense had the football. So what happened? Well, third down conversions for one. They kept the ball a long period of time. They went for it on fourth down a couple times, got a couple also. So I look at it as Alabama's defense was not ready for this game. If you look at the numbers and look at the stats, Bama's offense kept up with Vanderbilt, and they scored fairly quickly. They lost by 5, and they had the ball for 17 minutes compared to 42 minutes. That's very efficient, very active offense. They can hit you very quickly. And that's what Bama lived on last season. They lived on a quick 2-minute offense that went out. They scored very efficiently, very fast, and they gave the opponent the football back and said, "Can you score against our defense?" And Vanderbilt said, "Yes, we can," because the defense was very, very poor in that game. So the question is, how do they do it again? Number one is going to be run efficiency. And Vanderbilt, I don't think will struggle with this. They're 6.9 yards per game, which is first in the SEC, or yards per carry, rather, which is first in the SEC. They have 18 rushing touchdowns, 1,117 yards on the ground through 5 games. That's good for 200 or so yards per game. They're very efficient in the run game. That offensive line is tough. The quarterback can run the ball well. They've got a decent stable of running backs. They're tough. They're gritty. They block for each other very well. They run a very efficient option style offense that we saw a lot of last season. Now, they did get a lot of passes. They did get a lot of yards through the air last season. Like I said, they threw for 252. I don't think we'll see as much passing this year, as I think Bama's secondary is better. So the question is, can Bama's defense stop that Vanderbilt offense on the ground? And if you go number to number, it doesn't look great for Bama's defense. They give up 160 yards per game, 642 yards in 4 games. The numbers don't look great. The defensive line has struggled at times to stop the offense. The linebackers in the secondary have done the same. So that's going to be a big contentious spot for Bama this weekend. Can they stop the run game? Can Womack find a scheme? Can he find a way to supplement that good passing defense with some run defense? Because if they don't, Vanderbilt very well could again have the ball for 42 minutes and just keep on running it and not give Bama time to score. It's something that very likely could happen. One thing for Vanderbilt, though, they will have to figure out is how to get yards through the air. They're the 31st ranked passing team in the country, which is solid enough. 271 yards per game, 14 touchdowns. Pavi has been efficient enough throwing the football. They have made a couple mistakes, thrown a couple interceptions, but they're efficient enough in the passing game. But when you look at Bama's pass defense, it's a different story to their rushing defense. They end up having, they've only given up 2 passing touchdowns so far this season. They've only given up 113 yards per game. 3 interceptions, 454 yards total given up through 4 games. Very efficient. They played a tough Florida State team, played Wisconsin, who can throw the ball decently, played against Georgia, obviously, last week. That secondary is tested. They're very, very good. And I think that if Vanderbilt want to have a chance to win this ball game, they're going to have to find ways to get creative and find stuff through the air against a really tough, salty Bama secondary who generates a lot of turnovers as well. So for Alabama, when you're looking at this, you have to find out where you can win, where you can supplement. And number one is you got to find a run game. The run numbers for this year's Bama team are pretty bad, and that's putting it lightly. For Bama so far this season, we talked about Vanderbilt's rushing efficiency, 6.9 a carry. Bama's at 3.9 a carry. Rush for 483 yards so far this season on 125 carries, 122 yards per game. That's good for 107th nationally. 107 out of 134 teams. Bama is 107th out of that list. So what do you do if you're Bama and you got to try and find some efficiency? Well, number one, you're not facing a slouch on the defensive side of the football. Vanderbilt's rushing defense is very good. They give up an average of 79 yards per game, only giving up 2 touchdowns. That's good for 12th nationally out of 134 teams. They have a very, very good run defense. That defensive front is solid. They're salty. They're very physical. They'll step up. They'll make hits. So what do you do if you're Alabama? Number one, you can't go away from the run game. I think you have to play a balanced football game. We saw last week against Georgia, Bama played super balanced, even though the run game wasn't very efficient. We made Georgia respect the run game. I think you have to do the same against Vanderbilt this weekend. Another thing you're going to have to end up doing is find extensions of the run game. Find quick passes, screens, stuff like that, which we did very efficiently last week against Georgia. They buttoned it up on their end, to be fair to Georgia. They did a good job of adjusting and slowing that screen game down. But also get guys out of the backfield involved in the pass game. Guys like Kevin Riley. Guys have good hands. Jam Miller, we've seen catch a couple of touchdown passes against Georgia in key moments. Kevin Riley's stats for this year, 12 carries, 114 yards. Good catcher of the ball, good in the open field. I think that's going to be something that Bama has to do very efficiently this weekend. Find the right times to do it. Find screens. Because that Vanderbilt line is no slouch. I saved this for a later stat in the show, but overall this season for Vanderbilt, they got 14 sacks and 39 tackles for loss. That defensive front is very good for them. And to be fair to them, they haven't played the highest competition. But when they played against the toughest team they played so far this year, South Carolina, they got 2 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. So that defensive front is going to be good. They're going to bring pressure. They're going to try and force us to be very one-dimensional, which, to be fair, we have been in so far this year. We've been very pass-heavy. As far as production goes, we played balanced when we can, and we've done a good job of not going away from the run. But most of our production comes from the pass game, which is good for us because, like I said, our passing game is very, very solid. Great. Some would even say we have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Does a good job of keeping the ball well. Doesn't turn it over. So I think the passing game for Bama will be okay as long as we can protect Ty. And Vanderbilt's secondary, not great. I have their stats written down somewhere, but they're ranked somewhere outside of the top 50 in second. And again, they haven't really played the highest competition. So this will be the most highly efficient passing offense they face all season. The question is going to be, can we get the ground game working to try and supplement some of that? So what do we do to stop Vandy? That's going to be the big question because last season when we watched the game, it wasn't the offense I would put the blame on as much as the defense. And it's hard to point fingers at individuals, but overall, when you look at that game and your offense puts up 400 yards and you still get beat, that's not a great look. You put up 400 yards in 17 minutes. Vanderbilt put up 400 yards in 42 minutes. So the offense for Bama was very efficient. The defense was the opposite of that. They did not do a very good job of getting off the field on third down and on fourth down. We had a couple turnovers that put them in short yardage situations. So I think that a couple of things that we saw last week against Georgia are going to be big keys in this game. And I got some film pulled up that we'll go ahead and watch. It's going to come down to eye and gap discipline for Bama. Vanderbilt plays a very not intricate, they play a very solid option-based offense. They trust Pavia. He's got another year under his belt. He's experienced. He's beat some big teams. He's beaten Auburn, beaten Bama, gone to a couple of different tough places to play and played good football games. So it's going to come down to, can we be disciplined with our eyes and with our gaps? So, and most people don't understand what that means if you're kind of outside of the football world. So we'll talk about it a little bit. I have some game film pulled up from last weekend, Bama versus Georgia. And I got copyright hit for the last time we did film study. So I'm going to go at this screen for screen, essentially frame by frame. This is late, I believe in the third quarter. We got gashed a couple times in the run game, inside and outside. I know Womack said that we got hit 6 times outside, but there was a couple times we got busted inside. So one thing you have to understand about Kane Womack's defense is that secondary is very important in stopping the run game. Guys like Bray Hubbard step up, make hits, things like that. Dre Kirkpatrick as well, good run stopper, physical guy. So a lot of it is on them to help with the run game. We play with only two traditional linebackers, so we're soft in the box at times. So you see guys like Bray here stepping up, helping out a lot in the run game. He forced a fumble last week. They got us 3 points. So they are going to be essential. And we'll jump through this film just a little bit. All right, so first the snap goes. It's going to be an inside handoff to this number 33. He played a very good football game, physical guy. You see them pull 2. You pull the right guard and the left guard. They're both going to pull around. I might have to pause it, just keep on pausing. And so I want you to watch. I want you to see here. I went too far back. I want you to see Bray here. And then I believe this is Demonic Jackson. So what they're going to do is somebody's going to contain this outside. So the inside's kind of muddled. You're going to get guys coming up, stepping up, closing gaps, things like that. There's a huge gap here that Bray starts to step over to try and cover up. You got the corner stepping in on a blitz. So really, this outside zone is going to be on this guy right here. I believe it's Damani. So offensive line gets pushed around. Bray steps up to this gap. And you saw Damani start to slide this way just a little bit. And then watch where we get hit. We get hit on this outside. Huge gap opens up. Let's see if we can go back one more time. Oh, didn't mean to do that. All right, so here we go again. Again, he's here. Bray steps up, covers this gap. Watch him slide across. Still sliding, still sliding. And then this gap opens up huge. Nobody there to plug it. And that's just gap discipline 101 as well as some eye discipline problems. There's a bit of a hold here, but it doesn't really matter at that point. That's how you get busted for big runs, especially on the inside. So we got another play here. So this is the fake in reverse. This is Keon Sabb. They got circled. Now I want you to watch him in this one. So they're pulling the guy in motion, pulling him, going to snap it, and they're going to get this end around. So everybody sees this, and they're crashing, the 2 backers. Sabb, everybody's crashing this way, crashing. We're still moving across. And then watch, as soon as you see this receiver in the slot, he starts to pull. Sabb sees him and starts to step over. Now, I want you to look at the numbers we have on the field. So we have 3 on this side of the field, getting to be 4, covering up this left side of Georgia's offense. Then watch. So we got 4 on this side. Sabb sees this guy pulling, says, okay, it's going to be an end around. He's going to toss it, and this guy's going to take the ball the other way. But look at the guys you have covering. You have 4 on this side who can cover up this side of the field. You have 2 out here. So it's going to be down to Sabb to be the third guy to crash down and try and close up some of the space. Steps across, stops right there inside the hash mark. They don't fake it. Again, you got 3 or 4 guys over here trying to cover this space. Going to stop him if he goes on the end round. And then look at this gap that opens up. You get one guy getting blocked here, and you have one guy down the field. Nobody else covering the space at all. Again, that's more of eye discipline rather than gap discipline. That's being able to diagnose plays and be in the right spots on the field. Even if you don't think the ball is going to be there, you have to be there. So we'll watch it one more time. Again, I'm going to copyright for this. We're going to keep playing. So everybody's crashing. Everybody's crashing to the left. See the guy coming around on the reverse. Sab stops inside of the numbers. Really needs to be on this spot because there's nobody else out here to help. Everybody's still crashing from this right side. Boom. Big hole busted. Big play, run down the field, get it inside the red zone. So that's how you can get hit with what's called, we'll call them gadget plays, trick plays, whatever you want to call them. So now we'll go into, this is going to be a Diego Pavia special this weekend. This is a Jalen Milroe special too, minus not having a running back to run behind. So they're already kind of doing the job for me. They got Justin Jefferson out here already circled. Now he needs to contain this edge. We only have 3 down linemen. We got 3 backers here. And again, Bray stepping up, going to help out and run support. So have one guy slide. One guy sliding. So this is going to be where Stockton's just going to take it up and go up the left side. Just real simple quarterback run. Not even a draw. Just run all the way. And what they're talking about here. So this is what I talk about when I talk about gap discipline. So this middle linebacker here, I couldn't actually see who it was. I can't see who it is. It's probably either Nikhai Hill-Green or it's Deontay Lawson. So his job, whenever he sees this run go out to the left, he's going to be in the A gap. So that's between the center and the left guard. And then Jefferson's going to have to be out here on the outside trying to contain the edge. And watch what happens. So stepping up, needs to crash outside now. And Lawson, I believe it's Lawson, sees this A gap opening up. He's going to step in and crash that and keep it from going up the middle. But Justin Jefferson here gets stuck on the inside. There's no edge contain. And then I would say a more unathletic quarterback than Diego Pavia busted huge. So that's going to be the things that this defense has got to focus on this week. Again, we'll watch it again. I just want you to watch Justin Jefferson here. So stepping that one step inside right there, he slides across here, trying to contain the A gap when it's not his job. A gap closes, outside opens up, and they busted big. So stuff like that is what Bama's going to have to do to try and prevent big plays happening against them this weekend. Again, that is not something that's cleverly drawn up. That is a very simple just quarterback run to the outside. There's nothing to it. And Vanderbilt is going to throw a lot more creative looks at you. We saw last week that those shovel passes, or last year they throw a ton of shovel passes. Just weird little gadget stuff that works for them very well. So we've got to figure out how to stop that. And again, the way to stop it's simple. Eye and gap discipline, but we just have to go out on the field and do your job. That's what Saban would always say week to week is go out, do your job. Don't do somebody else's job. Do your job and then trust that they will also do theirs. And that's how you stop option-based teams like this. Georgia is not an option-based team. They're a very pro-style offense. They throw the ball when they need to. They run the ball very efficiently, and they were able to go up and rack up a ton of yards against a run defense that just wasn't up to it at times. Again, they played well, solid. Georgia's a great football team, and that offensive line of Georgia's tough. They're not going to give up a lot, but it's small things like that whenever you get down to teams like Vanderbilt where it's not going to be an easy game. It's things like that happened last week or last year. You lost by 1 score. Those tiny little things that all add up, and then eventually they could have had up into you losing. So that's one thing Bama's got to do a better job of getting on top of this week. And the same thing happened at Florida State. We can go back and we can watch a ton of plays where eye and gap discipline was not good. And that's how we lost that game also. We got walked over in that game. So I think that's the biggest key for the defense. I think Pavia will probably throw the ball okay. I think this defense is apt. I think we'll be okay. I think they're good enough to get a couple turnovers if we need them to. But the run stopping has to be there. And if it's not, this game is going to be a 4-quarter game. Here's the other thing. Vanderbilt is going to be more confident than they were last year. Bama's not taking them lightly, but that Vanderbilt team is 1 year older. Pavia is 1 year older. He's been there the extra year. They're well coached. They're gritty. They're tough. They're everything that I would call Georgia Tech. If you put them versus Georgia Tech, that'd be a great game. I think that's where they match up, and we should take Georgia Tech seriously if we end up playing them. I think it's where we should not overlook this game, because if we do, something like last year will happen again. And I don't think the guys are overlooking it at all. I just think there are a few things that we have to clean up. And again, we played a great football game against Georgia, but it is the little things that come into SEC play that determine whether you're going to be a national champion or not. A couple things I want to talk about in this game, or this year rather, is third down efficiency. Once again, we talked about it at the opening up this podcast. Vanderbilt's super efficient last year. They're super efficient this year. They're 28 for 46 on third down. That's good enough for 30%, or sorry, 60% rather. Bama also been good, 30 for 55. That's good for 55%. That's top 50 in both those categories. Bama's defense on third down, and I haven't really noticed it being a problem. I've noticed it in the past being problems. They did a great job against Georgia last week. Georgia went 2-8 on third down. But Bama actually ranks 99th nationally out of 134 teams, 19 for 45 third downs given up. Vanderbilt, a little bit better. They're 24 for 69, 50th nationally. That's 34% of letting the offense convert on third down, or letting the opposing offense convert on third down. It's kind of a confusing stat, but so both teams' third down defense is not as optimal as it probably could be. Now, you could definitely say that Bama's faced the tougher teams. I think that Vanderbilt has had a lighter schedule. I don't think that's controversial to say, but they did play South Carolina, a good football team, and they ended up beating them pretty handily in their own building. So it's not something to sniff at. I think we have to do efficiently. I think we have to be good on third downs. We were very good against Georgia on third downs. I think we were 9 for 11 starting the second half. So I think that this team is very efficient on third downs. And here's one thing I think we have to do. Here's how Bama wins this game. We balance time of possession. I'm not saying you have to have a 40-17 advantage, but balance time of possession. And this offense has done a fantastic job of it this year. If there's any big difference between offense from last year to this year, is how well we hold on to the football, and not just protecting the football as far as ball security goes. It's more of we take time to have possessions and go on to score. Against Georgia, we had 2 14-play drives that ate up like 13 minutes in that game. So stuff like that will help us balance out this game a little bit more. You're not going to give Vanderbilt the lion's share of the ball. Really, in that game last year, it was whoever had the ball last is going to win. And this game, if it comes down to the same thing, you want to have the ball for longer. So I think we have to balance time of possession. We have to stop Vanderbilt in third down. We just talked about that. Their third down efficiency is very high. I think if you get them behind the sticks early, bring some blitzes, bring some pressures, force them to be in obvious passing situations, especially on third down, is going to be something that's very good. That will help us go forward. I think that if we do that, Pavi is prone to a mistake. He's been efficient so far this year, but he's thrown the ball in a couple of tight spots that he probably shouldn't have. Forced a couple of interceptions. So I think if we put them in obvious passing situations on third down, that is going to be the key stat. I'm going to, at the end of the game, I would love to see the yards to go on third down, the average yards to go on third down. If it's 6+, I think we win that game. If it's 4 or less, I think it's a 4-quarter game. So that's going to be something big we have to look forward to as well. Like I said, put them in obvious passing situations on third down and disrupt the quarterback play. Get pressure. Whenever he does have to drop back there to pass, I don't think he's going to hold on to the ball for very long, and he's good with his legs. So there will be a couple times where we have to contain. We did it last week against Georgia. Well, we didn't overrun the quarterback too often, and we were able to contain him when he had to scramble for a couple of yards. Pavi is a better athlete. I think the Gunnar Stockton, especially with his legs, I think it's going to be where you have to contain him. You have to get pressure, but you can't overrun. If you start overrunning and you only get 2 guys back there and you're playing zone coverage, everybody's dropped. I think that, or you're playing man coverage and everybody's dropped. I think that's when you can get to some trouble where Pavia can scramble for a couple of big yards. So you got to do a good job of pressuring, but you also got to do a good job of containing also. Last one's win the turnover battle. If you don't do that, if you let them steal some possessions, that could be real trouble. We gave them a couple of short fields last season. They got a pick 6. So I think we have to continue to do a good job of controlling the football. And Here's the thing. I trust Ty. Knock on wood. I have a wooden desk. I trust Ty. I think he does a great job with the football. They talked about it all in the offseason. His ball security is fantastic. We've done a good job of not putting the ball on the ground as far as fumbles go, and we've done a good job of forcing turnovers. Bray Hubbard's got 2 interceptions, forced a fumble last week. We've done a really good job of forcing turnovers, getting some possessions back for that offense. So I think if we win the turnover battle and if we do well on keeping them at bay on third downs, I think we do have a very good chance of winning this game fairly comfortably. These are the things I'm going to be looking for in this game. I kind of gave you your keys to winning the game. Now I'm going to give you I would call it what I'm looking for in the week to week. And number one, I want to see that offensive line continue to give Ty time. Also got the little training film up. Let me know what you guys think. I can give you something else to look at, not just this. You got to give Ty time. And on top of that, you got to open up run lanes. The offensive line did a good job last week. We did a good job of protecting Ty, giving him time. But we got to do a better job of opening up run lanes. If we continue to protect Ty like we have, like I said, their defense and their defensive line has got 14 sacks and 39 tackles for loss this year. That's pretty hefty numbers. So they're going to bring a lot at you. I would say that even though they played inferior opponents, I would say that their defensive line is level 2 or maybe better than Georgia's. And that's controversial to say. Georgia has not had a single sack on that defensive line yet. They've only had, I want to say, 4 sacks total this year. Vanderbilt's got 14. So whether it's personnel or whether it's the way they drop or the opponents they play also clearly has something to do with it. They've got a very efficient defensive line, and they can cause trouble for a lot of different teams. So give Ty time, open up run lanes. Number 2, I'm going to be looking at Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams had a great game last year against Vanderbilt, put up a ton of yards. Everybody saw him drop the ball on that opening drive. It didn't end up hurting us, thankfully, but all eyes are on you when you're that big of a player, and he's struggled at times this year. But here's the thing: I think Ryan is has good enough mentality to bounce back from all of that. This could be the week where he bounces back and puts himself back out there as one of the top receivers in college football. And we saw at the end of the Georgia game, he made a couple of important catches. He got absolutely hammered at the end of that Georgia game, but he caught a ball for a first down, held on to it, and look, you got to take it one game at a time. You got to try and limit the drops. I think that he has the ability to do that. We all know who Ryan Williams is. We all know the ability he has. And he just got to go out and show it, man. He's got to stop being his own head, and he's got to go out there and show it. Last thing I want to see Ryan Grubb continue to improve. And we always talk about guys on the field. The amount of praise I've thrown at Ryan Grubb this past week and the past few weeks is immense because he absolutely deserves it. The way he's learned this offense, the way he trusts these guys, we saw things we've never seen before. We saw Caden Proctor technically catch the ball, but it was a technical run last week. We've seen Jeremy Bernard run the ball. We saw a double wing touchdown run scored from a wide receiver a couple of weeks ago. Like we've seen things that we would have never seen before. And that's because Grubb trusts these guys and they trust him. The plays he draws up, the work he does, he is as elite of an offensive coordinator as I've ever seen. I think he's up there with Sarkisian. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say it now. People are going to be trying to snipe him in the offseason because of how good he is for a head coaching job. So I'm going to say enjoy him while they last because I don't know if he's going to last forever, but I think he's done a fantastic job, and I want to see him continue to improve in this game. So my final thoughts for this game, I'll sum them up. Vanderbilt's a real football team. They're a real football team. They're well coached. They're gritty, and they believe they can win this game. I mean, we went over the numbers. Statistically, they have a very big shot of winning this football game. So the question is going to come down to, and we talked about this earlier this year, how does Bama handle success? We saw how they handled having their back on a wall after the FSU loss. They came out and they threw people in the buzzsaw, including Georgia. So we saw how they played with their back against the wall. How can they play handling success? How can you play now that you have a little bit of breathing room? You have a little bit of a breath about you where everybody's starting to talk a little bit more positively about you. They're talking about Ty being in the Heisman race. They're talking about Bama competing for SEC and national championships. How are you going to handle that now? How are you going to handle the outside noise? Because people always talk about they don't hear the outside noise. They hear it. I know Bray heard it, criticizing him after the FSU game. I know Ryan and Ty and all these guys, they hear it. So how are they going to handle it going forward? I think that this team plays very, very well when they're under pressure. So now we have to go see if they can go out there and handle success. We had a couple of games last year. We had the Oklahoma game and the Vanderbilt game where we didn't handle success well. We came off a win against Georgia, against Vanderbilt, and we went out there and we got beat. We were going up against Oklahoma. We had a free run to the SEC championship game, went to Oklahoma, got beat. And I would say neither of those teams are better than you are, personnel wise, but they went out there and they played a better game than you. So you got to go out now and prove that you can handle success and go out there and win and try and really kind of get that monkey off your back from last year. Because I mean, it's gonna be a personal game. A lot of these guys are coming back, and it's gonna be personal. Vanderbilt's gonna really want to go out there and they're gonna try and get their own back, or try and prove that it wasn't a fluke. And then you got to go out there and prove that it was, and then you got to go on and you got to continue the rest of your SEC schedule. But it's not going to be an easy game. Vanderbilt, like I said, is a very real team. I think that they do a lot of good things. They're very well coached. They're dominant in certain spots of the football. But Bama's got to go out there and be Bama and try and figure out how to win this game. And again, look, I think personnel for personnel, Bama wins this every time. But we got to go out there and we got to prove it. For us, it's a mentality thing. If we go out there, we're switched on like we were against Georgia, I think we win this game by 2 scores. The line's 10.5, I want to say. So if we go out there and we play like we did against Georgia, we beat anybody in the country. If we go out there and play like we did against FSU, we can lose to anybody in the country. So that's my final thoughts on this game. I appreciate you guys sticking around. Please do hit the like. Please hit the subscribe button. My prediction, I'm going to say Bama does a good job. I'm going to say we stay locked in. I'm going to say we go out and get this win. I mean, I'd call it we win by 14 if I were to say anything. Maybe Vandy gets kind of a garbage time touchdown, but I think Bama can handle this team very well just because of what I saw last week. We went into a hostile environment. We went into a tough place to play against a really good Georgia team and ended up being fairly dominant in that game. And look, in the past, Nick Saban teams were more dominant on the road than they were at home for a couple of years. So maybe that's what this is, but under Kalen DeBoer's tenure, he's done a much better job of playing at home than he has on the road. So if we can go out there, we can show that laser sharp focus, the intensity, the want to win, I think we'll be just fine in this game. So that's about it. Like I said, please hit that like, please hit the subscribe button. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Drop your comments. Let me know what you guys think about the Vandy game. Drop your predictions. Who do you guys think is going to win? Who's going to be your key players to the game? I always appreciate hearing from you guys. So I will see you guys on Monday for the post-game show. Hopefully it's a positive one for Bama, but we'll see. We'll find out. A lot of good games on this weekend, so a lot of good football to be had. I'll see you guys on Monday, and until then, roll Tide.